All right, hello everyone. I'm just doing some last minute preparations for the live stream. I gotta get some McVitie's digestives out, some chocolate covered tea biscuits. Jeez, these ones are wrecked. Alright. Alright, there we go. Put this back in the fridge. All right. Here we are. Why is this chair so low? There we go. Okay, let me just get to my channel so I can check everybody's comments. Let's see. My channel. Turn the volume down. Daniel says, Alex, I literally got a cruise ship ad. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. YouTube tailors ads towards you, usually whether you like it or not. So that's just how they do things. But let's see if I can get to the very beginning here. Hello, Steve. Hello, Tyler. Hello, Ozzy. Hello, Grand Trunk Western. Ozzy says, how is everyone? How is everyone's weather today? Today it's slightly rainy. Not very rainy. Kind of what we call drizzly. So not very bad, actually. It's a nice cool day. We've had slightly warm days. I'd say like the high we had was 62 degrees Fahrenheit, and I think that was like 2 days ago, which has been warm compared to the last 2 or 3 months. So, yeah, as we get into spring, it'll slowly start going up a little bit. Let's see. Tyler says, Steve, what's the difference between ribbon and riband? Let's see. Hello, Mike. Hello, Little Gamer. Hello, Todd from Ohio. Ron, how's it going? Recently purchased a book on the Queen Mary. The author is James Steele. The funny thing is I used to check his book out from the library back in 1997. I've heard of James Steele. I haven't got one from the Queen Mary, though. Ron says, got a book for a steal, $7, but the book is signed by the author, and it was sold originally in the Queen Mary. There's a photo from the bookstore on board. Really glad I got it. Oh, nice. Ozzy says, Alex is having Earl Grey today. Yes, it is Earl Grey today. I've been wanting to have it for a while. Last time I did a tea time, we did English breakfast tea. And so today's picks were either going to be Earl Grey, Lady Grey, or Irish breakfast. I just felt like I need Earl Grey. So, Tyler says, I finally dug out Queen Mary, Queen of the Queens from storage. Oh, nice. I forgot you had that book. Moonzer says, Alex, I have a question. Did you know that Robert Stack had an unsolved mystery episode at the Queen Mary? Yes, indeed. I've seen it as well. Grand Tunk says, I guess we're getting an ASMR session today. Hello, Historic Productions. Hello, Isaiah. I'm doing great, Historic Productions. Thank you. Derby says, I didn't notice the railroad acronym signage last time. Looks cool. Thanks. Yeah, my friend Steve R. did that. So, really great. Mike says, yay, 40K. Yeah, I know. I surpassed 40K subscribers the other day. I was pretty excited about that. So, yeah, that was pretty awesome. And already we're at 40,400. So, we're almost halfway to 41K now. So, it's going really well. Let me go ahead and get this water heating as I read some more comments. Hello, Cab Carcaden. Goofy Rolls is here. Hi, Alex. Sorry I missed you for a few weeks. I've been having some medical problems. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, it's okay. I hope you're doing well, or at least doing better. Years of Sea says, hey, Alex. I have to say your new Disney video has really gotten me into Disney history. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I've been making Disney history videos for years. I started off this channel in 2016, and that was the first thing I did on this channel. And it's kind of funny because there's people who are like, oh, I'm not really a Disney fan, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? You don't have to be a Disney fan to really enjoy Disneyland history, because there's something interesting about the park. It's interesting about the way it was constructed, about the stories behind it. You know, you don't even have to like a certain ride or a certain building in the park to just be fascinated about how it was put there. You know, it's some really fantastic stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why I'm not a theme park fan. I only like Disneyland. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, what really hooked me about the park wasn't necessarily being on the rides. It was the history behind the park. There's so much history there. I know a lot of people want me to do history of Walt Disney World, but I have to say, most of the stuff at Walt Disney World, even though it's, you know, some of it has been there for 50 years, it just hasn't accumulated history. The Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World is the oldest one, and it has not changed that much since it was installed. Unlike Disneyland, especially in the first 11 years when Walt Disney was alive, he really changed things around constantly. He loved change. He loved advancing the park and altering things. He would rip out attractions, even if someone loved it, just to put something better in there. And so that's what made it so interesting, and to be able to tell the different layers of its history. But Magic Kingdom Park doesn't really have that much, because they just, since it opened, it just almost never changed. They've added to it, but they've not taken much away. So, yeah. Doc, how's it going? Hi, Alex. Wanted to thank you for that beautiful Disney Castle video. The narration and music were incredible. You did an outstanding job. Thank you so much. Yeah, that one was definitely among the favorites that people had. Oma and Papa says, hi, Alex. It's raining here in SoCal. Yeah, that's good. SoCal's really needed it. I heard that they're starting to come out of the drought based off of the amount of water that the state is keeping. And I don't know how to put it. My brain's all kerbabbled. Thank you, Grand Truck Western. Goofy Roll says, I'm sorry, I meant Daniel. Okay, I think I got that one mixed up too. Let's see. Historic Production says, Alex, the Disney movie I watched growing up was The Incredibles. It was a classic movie for me. Nice. I remember when that came out, and I remember thinking, watching the trailers, I was like, I'm not gonna like this movie. Like, I don't like superhero stuff, you know. But then I went and saw it, and I was like, this is actually pretty good. I really like this. And to this day, it's among my top most watched Pixar movies. So I do like The Incredibles. And I saw The Incredibles 2, and that was okay. It wasn't bad. I've seen some bad sequels, but it wasn't a bad sequel. So Grand Truck Western says, when I went to California last month, I went to see Queen Mary, and it was really cool to finally see her in person. That is awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad you got to see the ship in person. It's huge. I mean, you know, a lot of people comment, they're like, oh, the cruise ship that's sitting behind the Queen Mary looks so much bigger. And yes, to a certain extent it does. It looks certainly taller. It's even larger by gross register tonnage and all that stuff. But the thing is that the Queen Mary isn't as small as it might look on camera. And a lot of that camera work has to do with the lenses on the camera, making certain things look smaller or larger, depending on what angle it's shot or what type of lens you're using. So when people actually go and see the Queen Mary, they are surprised at just how massive the ship is. You know, it is no small ship. I've heard people say, oh, it's a small ship, but especially if you consider that there is almost 40 feet of ship further under the waterline. That is more than most cruise ships. Most cruise ships, don't even have a draft that deep. Their drafts can be anywhere from 24 to 28 to maybe 30 feet draft or 30-foot drafts. But even then, they're not even that. Queen Mary's is a 39-foot draft. So, it's just incredible. All right, time to preheat these. I put hot tap water in each one to make sure that I'm bringing up the temperature slowly. So I just dump out half of the hot tap water for now. There we go. Then I top it off with boiling water to slowly bring the temperature up. And we'll let that sit for a minute or two. Just slowly bringing up the temperature. Blue Ribbon says, haha, water heater and full turbo after burner mode. Yeah, definitely. It takes longer to heat up water than it would for you folks in the UK, for instance, because you guys have more juice coming out of the wall, So it takes longer to heat up water in one of these kettles, but it's still easier for me to use a kettle than to go back and forth with a pot of water on the stove. Because that's what I used when I first started these live streams. Before I ever got this kettle, I was using a pot of water because I didn't have the money yet to buy the kettle. So this does save me time from having to go back and forth into the kitchen. Goofy Rolls says, for me it wasn't the park itself, but it was the time I spent with my family. We have great memories. That's awesome. Yeah, I pretty much grew up at Disneyland, so I do have a lot of memories ever since I was a small little child all the way to being a teenager and now as an adult, It's kind of ingrained in my psyche. Derpy, to answer your question, I think your question is directed at what I said when I said that I'm not a theme park fan. No, there's just something about Disneyland. Like I said, I grew up there, and so it's just part of growing up for me. So it's hard for me to see that in any other park. I've never liked any theme parks or amusement parks I've been to. I just don't. Even if the quality went up, we're seeing the quality go up at Universal Studios, but it's still not my thing. I don't want to be there, So yeah, I don't know. There's just something about Disneyland. And, I've been to other Disney parks. The only other Disney park I ever liked was Disney's Animal Kingdom in Florida. that was a beautiful park, but it wasn't necessarily because of the rides. I didn't go there for the rides. I went there for the animals. So it was really neat to see the animals, especially in an environment that looked a lot like the environments they actually would have lived in. Like, I've been to the San Diego Zoo and the San Diego Safari Park, which both of those are supposed to be very well themed to the environments, and they were, but it was still kind of a grungy zoo, and it looked like a zoo. And so I was just kind of like drawn out of it. But Animal Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World, it really is well themed. You feel like you're in the various jungles and forests of the world. So yeah, I think that was the only other Disney park I liked, but that was for the animals, not the rides. So and the environments, I suppose. But yeah, I didn't even like any other Disney amusement park so far. Theme park, I should say. But when I do go on my UK trip, my friend needs to go to Disneyland Paris to do filming for his channel, and I'll be there too because we're traveling together, so that way I don't get lost, because I will be the guy that gets lost in Europe. So, so I'll be going there with him, and so I'm actually kind of excited to see Disneyland Paris and see what the difference is between that park and the ones here in the United States. I can't promise Disneyland Paris will be my favorite park, but I will enjoy myself. I will take the time to relax, and even if it's not my favorite, it's always good to just appreciate, some time in another place, another environment, and make the best of it. And so I say that because crowds are not my thing, but it will be interesting to compare and contrast and try some new foods and see some new sights. Take a lot of video and photos of the whole place, so that way I'll have that memory with me forever, even if I don't feel like I want to go back. So I'm only preparing you guys. I don't want you guys to be like, oh, you're gonna love it there, and then I end up coming back and I'm like, it's not really my cup of tea. Speaking of tea, it's time to reheat this, so let's go ahead and turn that back on, wait for that to come back to a boil, then we'll empty these out, pour straight boiling water in. Todd says, have you considered doing a history of Cedar Point? No, I don't like amusement parks. Daniel says, for me, it's Knott's Berry Farm, and it has for some okay, sorry, I'm just getting so confused when I'm reading. And for the same reason, the history, just a farm, a chicken restaurant. And yeah, I've researched the history of Knott's Berry Farm. It's pretty interesting. But that's one of those things where I think people have asked me before, they're like, will you do a video on Knott's Berry Farm? No, I'm not interested enough to do that. But I have researched it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And of course, another thing that not a lot of people know is that Walter Knott and Walt Disney were actually pretty good friends, even though if you live in Southern California, the two parks compete against each other, and Knott's Berry Farm throws a lot of shade towards Disneyland and the Disney company. But yeah, Walter Knott and Walt Disney used to be very good friends. All right. Okay. Fill that all the way up. Cool. Now, the tea, I'll wait for 350 and then I'll put the tea in, because the temperature of the water does need a few seconds to just come down from boiling point. So, let's see if I can answer a question. Top impressive line. Let me just get this. Okay. 355 is when I take out the tea thing. Okay. Top impressive line says, hello, Alex. I have two questions for you. How thick are the Queen Mary 2's hull plates? And how long will your voyage to the UK aboard the Queen Mary 2 last? Let me guess, 5 days. Okay, so first question, Queen Mary 2's hull plates. They vary depending on what part of the ship you're looking at, but I believe the thickest hull plates on on Queen Mary 2 is about 1.5 inches. I think that's the thickest part, and then the thinnest parts of the hull plates, I believe, are about 3/4 of an inch. I don't know what that is in centimeters. I'm not very good at converting that to metric. I would do it on my phone, but I'm reading your guys' comments on my phone. So, but yeah, that is, if I have that correctly, I think. The answer to your second question, how long will the voyage on to the UK aboard the Queen Mary 2 last? So you would normally be right about 5 days, because the Queen Mary 2 was designed to have a service speed of 28, 29 knots, which is the same service speed that the original Queen Mary and original Queen Elizabeth had. And they used to do that up until a few years ago, but they just discovered that when people take a transatlantic crossing on the Queen Mary 2, they're not doing it for the same reasons people used to do it a long time ago. Like, I mean, there are some people that need to travel between New York and Southampton. But a lot of people doing it are there for the experience as well, if not more than the crossing itself. And so they decided to slow down the voyage. So it's, instead of 5 days, it's technically 7 days, but you're on the ship for 8 days. So my voyage there would be, if you count the time that it sits in the dock at either end, it'll be about 8 to maybe 9 days of voyage. That also depends on what direction you're traveling, because I think it's 9 days one way and then 8 days the other. It has to do with how the time changes when you cross the Atlantic. But yeah, so, and I have no problem with that. I know that some people are like, oh my god, 8 days on a ship, but and especially because there's no stops. You go directly from New York to Southampton. And that is the difference between a transatlantic crossing versus a cruise. A cruise, every day you wake up in a new destination, you have an itinerary, you know what you're going to do, you're going to leave the ship, or maybe not, but there's options to leave the ship, do things, you get back on the ship goes, and you arrive at a new destination the next day, or maybe the next 2 days. Queen Mary 2, when it does a traditional crossing, there's no stops. It goes directly from New York to Southampton in the middle of the ocean, come rain or sunshine. Even if there's a gale blowing, the ship will go right through it instead of around it, if it can avoid going around it. So yeah, that is my long-winded way of saying 8 days. So, but yeah, I'm excited because, you know, it might be the only time in my life I get to do it, and I will be doing 2 crossings. So I'll be going from New York to Southampton. Then my friend and I will be spending 2 weeks both in the UK and in Paris. Paris is like, I think maybe 5 days, but the rest of the time will be in the UK. And we already know where we're going to go, what we're going to do. I know a lot of people want us to go up to Scotland or even Northern England. Unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. We don't have the time, and those cities like Edinburgh, which I really want to go to, are really far away for the time frame we have, and the things we need to see. Because I'm doing this whole trip for the filming of videos for this channel, and I needed to stuff in as much things as I could, and as much as I'd love to go and see, you know, things in Edinburgh, especially the Royal Yacht Britannia. I really want to go there, and my friend Chris does too, but it's just, when we tallied up all the things we want to see, there wasn't enough reasons for us to spend extra time to go up to Scotland. So, and then Clydebank, you know, original home of the RMS Queen Mary, where it was built, I mean, you know, and a lot of other ships, it's one of those things, like, you have to go there. But when you get there, there's only a museum, and then maybe the spot, the slipways where John Brown and Company was. What else is there to do, you know? So it's kind of like we had to just axe that from our trip. But one place that we do look forward to is going to Belfast. So Belfast in Northern Ireland to see a bunch of Titanic related stuff. Everything that Belfast has to offer that is related to Titanic, we'll be going there and doing it. So if you guys are like, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Yes, we are. Everything related to Titanic, we will be doing it in Belfast. So, yeah, because I know that a lot of people will like to see stuff like that on the channel. And everything from, like, vlogs to history videos to, like, reviews and tours will all be on the channel after the trip. So, yeah, lots of stuff. Cool. Okay. Better... That is really hot. Ouch. Give that a quick stir to mix around the tea. Cool. Little Gamer says, that's California, and I think I've seen more rain in the last 2 months than I've seen in the last 4 years. Oh, yeah, I bet. You know, when I left California, one of the things I was not gonna miss was how dry it was. And then, you know, then last year, just the skies opened up and all this rain came down, so it makes me happy because, you know, there's... you know, the environment really needs it, so... I forgot I started putting the sugar and the creamer over here. It's just that way you guys could see it. Alright. Let's give that a stir. It's that time of year up here right now where life is starting to come back, you know, from the winter. And the other day, this huge bug crawled in. It's like a northern wood beetle, redwood. No, not redwood. Like pinewood beetle, I think it's called. Big bugs, huge. And it came in my apartment, and it was like flying around, running into everything, and chasing me around the apartment. And I finally opened my front door, and I had like my mop, and I was like shooing it out of the apartment with my mop. It was hilarious. Because there's no way, like it was late at night, there's no way I'm gonna sleep with a big bug buzzing around my head, or even landing on me, because that's what they do. They land on me. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. I don't like those bugs. They're not the best thing for the environment either, so... Let's go ahead and add the creamer, or the milk, I mean. Give that a stir. Alright, I've been looking forward to Earl Grey for a while. So good. Nathan says, hey Alex, when will Dad be back on a live? I invited him to tea time today. He was already here earlier. I made breakfast for him and me, us. I don't know. And I said, hey, you know, I'm about to do a tea time live stream. Do you want to stay? He goes, no, I better go. And so, yeah, he left. But, yeah. But, yeah, I think, you know, within the next couple months, I think he's going to start a channel of his own. Because there's always been stuff he's wanted to do. And, you know, he's got a friend that wants to be part of the channel, too. And so they're going to start that. And I'll let you guys know if he does start a channel. Because all his stuff is not going to be like mine in any way. It's gonna be very different. Like, he's gonna be talking about all kinds of stuff, like, you know, Star Wars and certain like Japanese animes, like just favorite movies, TV shows, models. Like he builds models and stuff like that. He's got displayable action figures and things like that. So he wants to kind of do like a review sort of unboxing sort of introduction to these kinds of things channel. And so And then he, who knows, he might even talk about his own interests in music. Like, he likes a lot of 80s, alternative stuff like that, Depeche Mode, The Cure, kind of stuff like that. So occasionally he might do stuff like that, just kind of showing his interests and sharing that with people. And he wants to do it in a way that is like his favorite YouTubers, but just his own style. So I told him, like, that's a great idea. It's a great way to use YouTube, is to share, your interests with other people. So when he does start that channel, I'll let you guys know, because I know some of you kind of might be interested in following that. Looking at you, Doc. So, but yeah, when will he be back? When will he be back on the live stream? I don't know. I think he likes having tea, but I don't know. I don't think, like, the topics interest him. Because we mostly talk about ocean liners or trains, and he does like trains, but not the same kind of trains I do. So I think there might just be things that he might not be interested in. So, Moonzer says, Alex, are you going to sail the Queen Elizabeth III? I don't think so. I'm not going to say no, because if I really enjoy my experience on Queen Mary 2, I may decide that if, Queen Elizabeth III is around somewhere, I may book a cruise on that. I'm not a cruise person. I want everybody to know that right now. Like, don't expect me to start a cruising channel. I think cruises are really tacky. It's just not my style. But Cunard cruises are very subdued, very British. Don't know how else to put it. And that's kind of me. That's something I would enjoy, I think. And so, yeah, I could see myself possibly taking a Cunard cruise. A crossing aboard the Queen Mary 2, definitely. But a cruise, that's a maybe. And if I do cruise, it will be with Cunard. So, just wanted to let you guys know. But that's a long ways from now. Nicholas says, how was water prevented from entering the rims of the propeller shafts on ships like Titanic and Queen Mary? So I would have to see a diagram as to exactly how it was built, but they have gaskets, special gaskets that are designed to be able to rotate with the propeller shaft. And I think really it's more like there might be like a couple of layers that are like, in between each other. And I mean, this is looking at a cross section, but they're designed to spin through each other like that. And I think it's also plugged up with a lot of grease and stuff like that. And so I think that is what prevents the water from coming in. But it is really hard to say. I would have to see like a diagram or a blueprint of how they built them. And I have yet to find any. So hello, John. Grand Trunk Western says, Queen Mary is unique for me because I'm used to the freighters on the Great Lakes. I live in Michigan, after all. Nice. Yeah, I know some people that like the Great Lakes ships. Moonzer says, Alex, are they going to do the Urban Commons project at the Queen Mary? I'm guessing you mean the Queen Mary Island project, because that's the project that Urban Commons wanted to do, or so they claim. As far as I can understand, no. The Queen Mary Island idea will not be happening. What the city has discussed, though, is something similar, but entirely different. If that makes any sense. There are cruise terminals in various parts of the world, not in the U.S. The U.S. doesn't have them like this yet, but they are all in one entertainment complexes. Throw out your whole idea of what a cruise terminal is. It is like the ones that they want to build is like one they have, I think, in, is it Hong Kong? I think that's what they said, or they're going to build one in Hong Kong. But it's essentially a giant entertainment complex. Everything you could want, pretty much, in an indoor complex. And it's all in a cruise terminal. And the idea is that before you take a cruise, your entertainment and your fun already begins on land and ends on land as well. And the terminal also includes like its own hotel. There might be 2, there might be 3. And so it's this new generation of cruise terminal. That person's gonna kill somebody. Guys, don't ever do that if you have motorcycles. That guy was zooming down the road. Jeez. Anyway, so the new generation of cruise terminals will be like an indoor entertainment complex. It'll be amazing. Well, Long Beach has talked about doing that. So the Port of Long Beach, which is in charge of what gets built along the Long Beach waters, was telling the city of Long Beach that this is what they want. They want to expand the cruise terminal to at least be able to accommodate 2 cruise ships, if not 4, which is a good thing, by the way, because every ticket purchased for a Carnival ship at the Carnival Cruise Terminal next to Queen Mary, a percentage of it goes towards the Queen Mary's maintenance. That means that $2.4 million per year is allotted towards the Queen Mary's $5 million a year maintenance budget. That means half of Queen Mary's maintenance every year is covered for free, basically, because Carnival Cruise Terminal is right next door. Now, if they can, that cruise terminal only can do 1 ship at a time. It's only got room for 1 ship. They want to double it at least, if not quadruple it. And if they can double it, that will pay 100% for Queen Mary's yearly annual maintenance. And so that's a good thing, you guys. So they want to at least double the capacity of that cruise terminal and then build a massive cruise terminal complex next to the Queen Mary that will have this entire indoor entertainment complex within it. And the Queen Mary will work alongside the indoor hotel of the complex, and it will be its own hotel, but it'll give people traveling to the cruise terminal options to stay on a classic liner before their cruise, or to stay on in the cruise terminal. So yeah, nothing is in concrete yet, but that is what they, that is what they're thinking of. Chris says, what are your thoughts about Disney World? I already mentioned it at the beginning of the live stream, so I don't want to bring it up again, because everyone's going to be like, what? You already talked about that. Ronald Eaton says, hi, Alex. I was able to retire from Park in December. Oh, Ronald! Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry. There's a lot of Ronalds on this channel, but that's all right. Well, I'm glad. Well, I mean, I hope, because you deserved it, so. But yeah, I hope everything's going well with you. I haven't heard from you in a while. I was kind of surprised. I was like, Ronald. I'm like, oh, yeah. But yeah, I'm really glad. You really deserved it, so I'm glad to hear about that. Moonzer says, Alex, did the Queen Mary always have Sir Winston, even in the sailing days? No. Sir Winston was built into the upper floor of the, it wasn't from the veranda grill. It was the level above veranda grill. And the level above veranda grill during Queen Mary's sailing days was a bunch of cabins for the ship's engineers. And so what they did was they gutted the cabins of the ship's engineers to build Sir Winston's. So no, Sir Winston's did not exist prior to Queen Mary coming to Long Beach. And what they used was the veranda grill. That's what they used for a fancy restaurant. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add to that, but I think that's all I have to say about it at the moment. K4RNA, hello Alex, I really enjoyed the Sleeping Beauty Castle video, highly recommended. Nice to see the train doing its work. We'll stick around for a bit. Hello everyone. Thank you, K4RNA. Alright, let's try some of this. I made this Scottish shortbread today, so it's like fresh, like right out of the oven. So, well, I mean, it's been sitting here for 40 minutes, but still. On the first day, it is still really nice and soft. Well, actually, it's soft for the first 3 days. Then it starts to get a little crunchy. But it lasts a while because it's basically sugar and butter, so it lasts. Oh, Grand Trunk Western. Yeah, I've been there too. San Diego Maritime Museum and USS Midway. That was all pretty interesting. Todd Hensley says, what is your favorite narrow gauge railroad? It is the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway in Maine. So, that is my favorite narrow gauge railroad. People have asked me what's my favorite standard gauge railroad. I don't have one. Standard gauge is not really my thing. Daniel says, hey Alex, I'm not a fan of living in Southern California. Everything that's fun is at least 3 hours away. There's nothing to do and I really want to move away from here. That is an odd thing for me to hear because the number one thing you hear when you move out of California is how anything fun is like 6 hours away. So, like, yeah, if I wanted to go somewhere fun here, like where I live, the only really fun things for me to do is around 3 to 6 hours away. Yeah. I could get to Seattle in 3.5 hours. But yeah, I mean, because Seattle for me is fun. I live in Portland, and I don't mean to bash Portland, but Portland is not exactly the most fun place to be. I've been to some nice places in Portland, like the Japanese Garden and all that stuff, the Rose Garden, and I like stuff like that, but I just haven't, especially with everything closing down in Portland, because I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's kind of, it's been going downhill pretty rapidly. So, so the only other place that I like going is Seattle. Seattle, a lot of people go like, oh, Seattle's getting horrible. Actually, it's gotten better in the last couple of years. They've actually been improving it. I know because I've been to Seattle a few times in my life. And I remember it when it was bad, when it was really bad. Let's put all this. Okay, good. He turned off his engine. Okay, so yeah, Seattle's getting better, and it looks really great. Like, I walked throughout downtown, didn't feel unsafe at all. I wouldn't do it at night, but still. Hello, Derek. Top impressive line says, Alex, have you heard of the SS Waratah? It's a ship that was built for Blue Anchor Line that vanished without a trace off Durban, South Africa in July 1909. No, I haven't heard of it. Daniel Ramirez, yeah, I know The Last Great Cruise. It's a good video. Derpy says, sorry if I missed it, but was it mentioned anywhere that you have plans for visiting the White Swan Hotel in Alnwick? So no, I have considered it, but I can't. But there is something just as good. We're going to Bristol, which has a lot of amazing historical stuff to see. But one of them is they have what's called the Mauretania Room, which is a bar where they built... The interiors of the bar were fitted out with the paneling from RMS Mauretania's main lounge. Or was it smoking room? One of those two. And so, yeah, the whole room is fitted out with that old wood paneling with the hand-carved features and stuff like that. So it will be the next best thing. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited. But, yeah. Alnwick is a bit far for our path of exploration. So... Moonzer says, Alex, what do they do for Easter on the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth? Nothing amazing. They had normal Easter religious services aboard the ship. You know, they would have had like a, you know, for the various religions aboard the ship, they would have had a service for each one. And then maybe for dinner, they would have cooked goose or duck, you know, that kind of thing. So that's about it. That's it. So yeah, I'm thinking if there's anything. No, there's nothing else. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, Alex, you should make a video about what they did on Easter. They really didn't celebrate Easter the way that we do today. So it just wasn't that big of a thing. It was a religious holiday. It was just like, oh, you know, you go to church and you might celebrate with a goose or something at the end of the day. So that's about it, you know. I think I'm really far behind because some people are still talking about the bug I was talking about. So yeah, I'm definitely very far behind on these comments. Doc says, I know you don't want to switch to a ton of Disney, but I was wondering if you knew any Disney World history. What happened with Beastly Kingdom? I'm not a coaster fan either. I love walkthroughs. Well, Doc, I know the creation of Walt Disney World, but I don't know the full history of the resort. I'm not really interested in it. Disneyland is the only theme park I'm really interested in talking about the history of. So, yeah, I've heard of Beastly Kingdom. I don't know its origins or what happened to it or anything like that. So, unfortunately, I can't answer that question. Let's see. Derpy says Pinewood. Huh? I don't remember that Beatles member. Yeah, I don't know. Some kind of Pinewood beetle. I forget what they call it. It's like something wood beetle or something like that. But it's like northern wood beetle or something like that. Doc says, I heart Dad. Oh, you're kidding. So Steve says horsehair was used as a packing for a gasket in the propeller shaft packing of that area. I did not know that. Little Gamer says, do you like writing? If you mean like writing stories or novels, yes, actually. My dad and I both do. So he's already finished a novel that he wants to try to work on getting it published and stuff like that. I have been writing a novel since, believe it or not, I was like a young teenager. So it's been almost 20 years. But I've rewritten it several times. I think every 3 years I rewrite it. And I'm in the process of actually rewriting it again because I write it, and then I think, oh, that's perfect. And then, like, a couple years pass, you know, and then I come back, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a little older now, so I kind of know what sounds better and what kind of works better in a story. I'm very much, I love reading, but I'm very, very, very picky about what I read. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, let me recommend you a book. I'm like, I'm going to hate it. I'm really picky, but I do love reading. That's something my dad imparted on me. He likes to read. My mother, she read a lot, but she read a lot of just like anything. You know, she would just read like whatever. And I couldn't get into it. But so yeah, my immediate family is a family of readers. So I've gotten very much into it, and yeah, I'm currently rewriting the novel that I've been writing since I was a teenager to kind of fit a more my current age, you know, and what I think is interesting and stuff like that. So maybe one day I'll publish it, but I don't know. I don't know. Nathan says, will you buy any souvenirs from your UK trip, and what would they be from the ship in the UK? You know, I actually don't know what I'm going to get in the UK. One thing I do know I want to get is actually not in the UK, but I want a complete set of Queen Mary 2's Wedgwood tea set. I think I've talked about this a few times before. I have this whole vintage set. I have this whole vintage set from the original Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. I would close the window, but it's warm in here, so I do need the cool air from outside. He'll drive away soon, I swear. Okay, so I like having this vintage set from the Cunard Queens, but I am worried that the constant use will one day result in wear and tear or breakages. As you guys know, if you look in the description of the video, I tell you exactly how I take care of this set so I can prevent anything wrong from happening. But nevertheless, with use comes wear and tear, even if you take really good care of something. So I've always thought, you know, it'd be really nice to own the tea set they use on the Queen Mary 2. So I think that's something eventually I want to buy, so that way I can start using that instead of this all the time. But as for other souvenirs, I don't have a specific plan. I don't know what I'm going to buy. It depends on if I see something and I think it's really, really interesting and I really gotta have it, then I might do that. But I also have to be very careful because I like to travel light. I don't like carrying multiple suitcases of things. I know I'm going to pick out, even though the trip is going to be a month long, I'm only going to have like maybe 4 or 5 days worth of clothing picked out. So there's going to be lots of washing of clothes and stuff like that while I'm out there. Even though it is a month-long trip. And yeah, I will try to have room available in my suitcase or whatever I have for some small souvenirs, but I don't know what they will be. And I know that even if I like something and it's kind of big, I might not be able to come back with it, you know. Maybe I can have it shipped to my house. It all depends on the situation, honestly. Some places, they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll ship this for you, and it'll cost this low price or something, and I might go with that. But if I end up having to ship something back and it has to go through hoops and red tape and stuff, then I might not even go through with it. So it really just depends on what I see. Yeah. I know some people are like, oh, you should come back with tea and all that stuff. But again, I want to be very, very selective about what I bring back, because I don't want to bring back a bunch of snacks. I'd like to bring back, if I have room for bringing something back, I want to bring back something that will last. Something I won't just chow through it and it'll be gone forever, you know? So, but yeah. Sheridan says, will the terminals for the cruise ships be good for the economy in Long Beach? Absolutely. You know, the Carnival Cruise Terminal does a lot for the city of Long Beach, but a lot is kind of a relative term because it only can handle one ship at a time, and it is only Carnival ships. So I think by doubling its capacity, it'll definitely earn more money for the city of Long Beach and for the Queen Mary, which the Queen Mary helps the city of Long Beach significantly. So I think, yes, it'll be a very good thing. And then the city of Long Beach is contemplating about building a very large dry dock or graving dock, whichever you'd like to call it. They want to build a very large dry dock, not just to service the Queen Mary, although the Queen Mary will be the first ship to be serviced in that dry dock, but also to service other ships that come into Long Beach Harbor. That'll be a great way for them to make money, and that's what they're looking towards. So, and having, you know, at least a double capacity on the amount of cruise ships that can come into Long Beach will be very good for them, especially with that graving dock. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Blue Ribbon says, did Maynard retire from Disneyland Park? I actually don't know. Sheridan. Yeah, the music playing in the background is everywhere from the late 20s through the 1930s and the early 1940s. So you can find the playlist in a link in the description below. It is my friend Shiloh's playlist. My friend Shiloh, his whole YouTube channel is all about orchestra band music from the Art Deco age. So, yeah, he's got a lot of great music on there, and I use his music, especially on my channel, so pretty cool. John C. says, would you take Amtrak? It depends on where I'm going. So, I wouldn't just take Amtrak to go just anywhere. I've taken Amtrak before. When I lived in Southern California, whenever I wanted to go to San Diego, I would take Amtrak. And that was pretty fun. But it really depends on where I'm going. Would I want to cross the entire country on Amtrak? No, certainly not. Would I go a certain distance? Yeah, I would. I've done it before. So, but not just anywhere. And it also depends on the price too, because as much as I hate planes, I also hate paying an arm and a leg for another experience I might not like that much. I am a train enthusiast, but not an Amtrak enthusiast, so it's not like going on Amtrak is the most amazing thing for me. I really don't care. For me, it's just, it's like being on a plane, but larger, so I don't, you know, it's not like I'm going to enjoy it any more than anybody else on the train, so. Tarkus says, the lunch you're having looks absolutely scrumptious. Hope it is. It certainly is. It's not a lunch, though. It's just sweets. So I have chocolate-covered tea biscuits. They're called McVitie's. That's the brand. And then I have my homemade Scottish shortbread. So it's all just sweets. It's not a proper meal. Jeffrey says, I hope you're happy with how the Sleeping Beauty Castle video is doing. Looks like you're getting a lot of views on it. It's certainly getting a lot more views at first than other videos will. It does need to catch up, though. So time will tell. in the next week or two how popular the video will really be, because right now it's flatlining. So we'll see. There might be another bump in about 3 more to 4 more days, because that usually is when it happens. At the 8-day mark, it bumps up, and if it doesn't bump up, then I'll kind of know. But yeah, I am kind of sweating over it, because I put a lot of work into videos like that, and 5,000 views is awesome if you're, if your sole purpose is just for sharing a video. But that video also has to pull its own weight. It takes a lot of time to make a video like that. So hopefully it will get around double to triple the amount of views it has currently within a short period of time. So we'll see. We will see. Metal Rider says, congratulations on 40,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really cool to surpass that number. It hasn't fully sank in either. I was kind of like, wow, that's, that's incredible. Like, you think about it, like 40,000, that's enough to fill up a stadium, I think. I don't know. I'm not much into sports. I have no idea how big stadiums are. Nicholas, about your Titanic question, I'm actually not sure. I'm the wrong person to ask about Titanic questions, believe me. Top impressive line says, Alex, how you doing? Wait, how do you feel when people pronounce Oregon as Oregon? Here in New York State, where I live, we have a village called Canton, and we don't pronounce it as Canton. I don't know why most people say Oregon. I think actually the thing is I think what a lot of people forget, and I guess I'll answer your first question first, which is, no, it doesn't bother me when people say Oregon. I know that it's incorrect, but it doesn't bother me. And the reason why is because a lot of people don't know. They think I have just a regular California accent, but I have noticed that I do have kind of a curmudgeoned accent from kind of all over the place. But I do say things in a certain way, and the thing is it's just kind of how I talk. And I have to correct myself to say it the way the people from that native area would say it. And so it's one of those things where it's like kind of the difference between Nolans and Nolans. So it's like everyone goes, oh, Nolans. I'm like, that's not correct. I'm not going to get mad at you for saying it like that, but it's Nolans. So, it's that kind of thing. But everybody's from a different part of the country, or even out of the country, and they have different accents, and they emphasize words differently. I had someone from Britain leave me a comment. They're like, oh, you're saying... it was like some random word. It wasn't like a name of a place or anything. Like, if it was a name of a place and I got the pronunciation incorrect, then I could understand. But it was a normal, like, regular word. And I didn't pronounce it the way the British would pronounce it. And I don't think they knew that Americans pronounce things differently. I don't think they realized, because there are certain things like, you know what word it was? It was centrifugal, or centrifugal, depending on where you're from. If you're from the UK, you say centrifugal. It has to do... look it up on YouTube. There is a reason why we pronounce words with a different emphasis on certain parts of the structure of a word. And I say centrifugal because I'm American. But in other places of the world, they might say centrifugal. And so the person was like, you pronounced it wrong. I'm like, actually, it's not incorrect to say centrifugal. It's just a different way of saying it. So it's kind of like with Oregon, it's not correct if you live here, but I'm not going to knock someone for getting it incorrect. It's probably like among the first times I've ever said the word. So, but yeah, Oregon. That's that's the proper way to say it. And believe me, I had plenty of people yelling at me when I first came here. You're saying it wrong, because I did say it wrong. And even to this day, there are Northern Oregonians, Southern Oregonians, they say it differently. I don't think they know they say it differently, but they say it differently. Not everybody says Oregon. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing. It's weird. Pronunciation is weird. All right, let's see. Who else is here? But, you know, it's like one of those things, like, I was telling somebody, I was like, oh, yeah, you know, my mom and my sister used to live in, you know, Birmingham, Alabama. And someone from Great Britain was like, it's Birmingham. And I'm like, it's Birmingham if you're in the UK and you're in Birmingham. But if you go to Birmingham, Alabama, and you pronounce it Birmingham, they will look at you like you are strange. They will correct you immediately and say, this is not the UK, this is America, it's Birmingham. So it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, I hate when people are telling me like, oh, you know, I'm from Britain and that's the proper way to say that word. And I'm like, just because you're from Britain doesn't mean that you're the right one here, you know? Yeah, a little bit of a tangent there. Sorry. DL Hemingway says, what are you up to on the railroad? Currently nothing. I'm still in the process of working on that caboose. It's not done yet. It'll still be a long time before it's done. And that's currently, whenever I do have time to work on the railroad, the caboose is what's occupying my time. I have some extra supplies to do more work on the mountain, but I feel like I need my dad's help with that, and he doesn't have time to do anything anymore. So, yeah, I don't know. It really depends. And then we're getting ready to move to a different apartment, so, you know, so that's going to occupy my time for a while. So I wouldn't expect to see any advancements with the railroad until I get to the new apartment. So we're just switching from one side of the complex to the other to a larger apartment. It'll save me and my dad money, but also it'll just be a larger place, you know. So we can have an office, and he can work on his YouTube videos, I can work on my YouTube videos, and I'll have a separate room for the train layout and stuff like that. So, yeah. Doc, yeah, those are some great things to bring back from Europe. I could see myself bringing something like back like that, but yeah, Steve, I'm not gonna bring a whole separate suitcase. I just don't want to pay for that, you know. It's just a lot, like going all the way to the UK and to Paris with all that stuff and lugging it around. I'll create space in my one suitcase, but not a lot. I like to travel light. I love traveling light. That's just, I've traveled not a lot, but frequently. Like, I haven't left the country, but I've traveled multiple times in my life, and I know what it's like to travel with a lot of things, and I don't like doing it. So, yeah. Especially now that I'm older and I'm going to be paying for it all out of my own pocket instead of my parents paying for it when I was a child. So it's kind of like, oh, geez, I don't want to rack up a ton of money. DL Hemingway says, are they planning to dry dock the Queen Mary for repairs and restoration, like what's happening to the battleship Texas? Planning, no. Do they want to? Yes. So the thing is that to just give you a short answer, because I know everybody's going to be like, oh, but what about this and what about that, Alex? Like, let me just give you guys a short answer. There is currently nowhere on the west coast of the United States that the Queen Mary could be taken to for dry dock. The city of Long Beach looked into it. They just determined that the ship cannot leave the safety of Long Beach Harbor. The ship just... Part of the reason is the expense, but the other part of the reason is she would need to receive the repair work that is necessary in order to even leave the harbor. So if you're going to get the repair work done in the harbor, then why even take the ship somewhere else? If you're going to do all the work you need in the harbor just to get it out of the harbor. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so they're looking into building a dry dock of their own. They haven't decided where, they haven't decided when, they haven't decided how much it'll cost. So it's just currently in the research and development phase. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon. You know, maybe within the next 5 years, we will hear an answer about where they want it to be built and stuff like that. But I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon. Can the ship wait for the dry dock? Yes, the ship could last another couple decades in the water without a dry docking. It will be difficult because as time goes on, it will need more and more maintenance. But it can sit there in the water for a couple more decades before it needs, without a doubt, to be dry docked. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that's going on. It's just, to put it simply, in the most basic terms, the ship cannot leave Long Beach Harbor. So, but yeah, they want to dry dock it, but currently there are no plans to do it because they need to build a dry dock first. Let's see. See you later, Steve. Have a good night. Brian says, I love the mountain trestle on the train. Thanks. Yeah, that took a while to build. Frankie says, maybe a boring infrastructure idea here, but could you look into doing a documentary about the building development of the Disneyland Esplanade? It's not an entertaining concept. I need to give something that people will be entertained about. Telling them how an Esplanade went from being a sidewalk, or actually it started off as a parking lot, to being a sidewalk, to being a very large plaza. It's not that entertaining. So, yeah, I'd like to focus on things that I know people will love to hear about, you know, in general. Whoa. Sorry, I was just trying to read Grand Truck Western's comment. That was pretty crazy. Laurie Jean Carlson says Toontown reopens today. Yes. My friend Chris is currently at Disneyland filming Toontown and the Indiana Jones Adventure. I think actually I just got an alert that he posted a video of the Indiana Jones Adventure. Malibu Company says, hey Alex, hello Malibu Company. Doc says, would you mind sharing any of your favorite books? I just reread The Lord of the Rings. I know, nerdy, and now I'm reading Dry by Augustin Burroughs. You know, will be the first to admit I like really nerdy books too. So my favorite book of all time is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. I own that book. I own a first edition. I've probably reread that book maybe 6 times already. I think every like year or two, I like go back and I reread it. Another favorite of mine is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. I love Anne Rice's whole Vampire Chronicles books. I'm a big fan of her books. I don't really like the last 2 books she made of the Vampire Chronicles before she died. Yeah, it kind of seems like she had dementia when she made those 2 books. But the last good one I would say is the Prince Lestat, the original Prince Lestat. That was a good one. So I do like a lot of Anne Rice's stuff. Let's see. I also like. I feel like I read one recently. What was it? Oh, well, I have read some Dean Koontz novels, but I don't remember specifically which one. And then I read a novel, I don't remember the author, but the book was called Monster. And it was about, if I remember, I love horror books. So I was reading one, and I'm pretty sure it's Monster. It was one about, like, Sasquatches in maybe Northern California. And that was a pretty scary one. I like that one. I hope I have that one right, because I've read so many monster books. The Oath was a good one. That one was unexpected. That one was also, like, Northern California, but that one was, like, there was a dragon that was killing people, which was so crazy. It was good, though. It was really good. I like that. The Oath was pretty good. Let's see. I haven't read any Stephen King novels. I know that there is bound to be one I will enjoy, but at the same time, I've kind of skimmed through some Stephen King novels, and I'm kind of like, the story is great, but the writing is not interesting to me. So I don't know about Stephen King, but I did like Dean Koontz. Yeah. So those are just the ones that come to mind. I have read some classic ones. I've read Frankenstein. Again, another thing of good story, but I didn't like the writing. I haven't read Dracula. Yeah, I love horror novels. I love, like, fiction horror novels or science fiction. Oh, I've read Prey by Michael Crichton. That was a good one. Prey was good. I like that one. Prey was pretty good. I kind of want to buy Prey, so I have it in my collection, but I don't even have room for all the books I have, so we'll see. But yeah, that's kind of just a snapshot of some books I like. Top impressive lines. Alex, how come you don't have a favorite American ocean liner? Because you're American. I don't have a favorite American ocean liner because I don't like the way any of them look. I've looked at a bunch of them. I don't think they're very pretty. Not on the outside and certainly not on the inside. And aside from SS United States winning the blue ribbon, they really don't have much accomplishments. So yeah, I don't know. It's just not. I've always, regardless, been more of an Anglophile than I have been interested in the United States as an American. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm more prone to liking something British. I think I've told people if I had the money and I didn't, if I wasn't tied down by, my life here in the United States, and if I had the money, I'd probably move to the UK. That's probably where I would like to spend the rest of my life, or the remainder of my life. So, I don't know, maybe one day if I felt that there wasn't enough tying me down here, then I would probably go there, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Doc's, yeah, Doc, I would like to go antiquing in Paris. That'd be kind of cool. I know one day I'd like to go to India, and they have a great place in Mumbai for antiquing, because there's a lot. You know, when the British left India, they left behind a lot of antique treasures, and so now they're all in antique shops in Mumbai that they're selling them. So I certainly want to look through that and find, because you can get some stuff for a pretty decent price in Mumbai. So if I ever get to Mumbai, I'm gonna go antiquing for some Victorian era stuff. So, but yeah, for those that don't know, India is another place I really want to go someday, because I just love Indian culture and history and that kind of stuff. So lots of, I mean, I know there's lots of cultures in India, but I like what I've learned so far. So, now the company says, thought the Queen was on a concrete pedestal. No, actually, she free floats in the water. I mean, she is moored to the dock, but she does float freely, and she will rise and fall with the tide. She can't be put on a concrete pedestal or anything like that, because she is an entirely riveted structure. She wouldn't last very long if she was sitting on something solid because of the earthquakes. The earthquakes would eventually cause so many maintenance issues, it would just be impractical to keep the ship, you know, operating. But yeah, so I had to get photographic proof, actually, because a lot of people were telling me, no, you're wrong, Alex. And I'm like, no, you can see the ship rise and fall with the tide. So I actually did acquire photographic evidence of it. I haven't shared that evidence on, like, any platform. I have it in some videos, but yeah, so yeah, Queen Mary is not on a concrete pedestal. She floats freely. And a lot of people wonder, is her ballast tanks filled with concrete? No, because, you know, when you think about it, if they're going to maintain a ship that's sitting in water, how are you supposed to empty out the ballast tanks to check the ballast tanks if they're filled with concrete? You can't have this. So the ship's ballast tanks are not filled with concrete. Some of them have mud in them, a special drilling mud, and those can be pumped out. In fact, they were pumped out recently. A couple months ago, they started the process of pumping them out one by one to check them and, you know, see if there's any maintenance issues. So far, nothing of consequence has been reported. They're in pretty good shape despite their age, and they were pumped back in with mud, so that way it can continue ballasting the ship and keep it upright. Grand Trunk Western says, have you watched Tugs? No, I haven't. Dino DeSantis says they should just build a dry dock around the Queen Mary. That would take a lot of money. It's interesting you say that. So a lot of people have said that. They said, why don't they just build a dry dock around the Queen Mary? Because, number one, it'll cost a lot of money. And the ship only needs to be dry docked once every 25 years. So would you rather spend the money on something that you'll only use once every 25 years, and when you use it, you'll probably have to do work to maintain the dock in the first place just so you can use it again? Or would you just build a dry dock a mile away that will constantly bring in money by servicing multiple ships constantly every year? You know, it's just smarter to build a separate dry dock that will constantly earn money year round, as opposed to one that will not earn money at all and only be used once every 25 years. So that's why they will not build a dry dock around the Queen Mary. Not unless they are desperate enough. They could build a temporary one around the ship. It'll cost a lot of money, but they have considered that as an option if they cannot feasibly build a separate dry dock. But the number one priority is to build a separate dry dock that can be earning money year after year. So yeah, that's the reason why. Willem says, "Hi, Alex. Why aren't you saying hi to me?" It's not on purpose. I don't see any other... Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, hi. Brian, I don't know if there is another book for the Queen Elizabeth like the quadruple screw Queen Mary. I don't know. I haven't even looked yet. Year One says, "Hi Alex, the Sleeping Beauty Castle video is great. Will you be re-releasing any of the other Disney attraction videos you made in the past? Or are you planning on updating them, then releasing them?" All of them will have to be updated. They are all currently out of date, both, you know, aesthetically and factually. They are out of date. So they will all have to be updated. Will I release all of them? I don't know yet. I'm seeing how the Sleeping Beauty Castle video goes, because it does take a significant amount of time to make those videos. Yeah, I had to postpone my Queen Elizabeth video that I was going to put out just to make that video. And so if it takes that much time, I have to wonder, is it worth it to put the video out? So, yeah. So it depends on how well this Sleeping Beauty Castle video goes. So it's doing well so far, but I want to see in the next week or two if it still continues to be a highly watched video. And if it is, then it will definitely be worth it to put out more Disney videos in the future. Willem says, "How do they get Queen Mary in the rocky walls?" So there's 3 walls, one in the front of the ship, one to the starboard, and then the final one is aft of the ship. So what they did was they built the one in front, the one in starboard, and they left the one aft open. They carved a channel. Well, they did this first, but they carved a channel, a deeper channel, that would allow the ship to be pulled right into the dock, because, believe it or not, that area of the harbor is not deep enough for the ship. So they had to actually carve a trough for the ship to float into. And then once they got the ship in place with tugboats, they moored it to the dock, the tugboats left, and then they used machinery to carefully place the rocks. Not dump them. I mean, I think the first few were dumped, but the last few were carefully placed and lined up the rock wall. The rock wall has been taken down maybe once or twice since the ship has been there, and that was to install. That was for one, to do maintenance, and then another one was to bring the submarine in. So that's how the submarine was brought in. They took down the forward rock wall, moved the submarine in, put the rock wall back. So a lot of people go like, "Oh, how are they ever supposed to take the Queen Mary out? She's surrounded in a rock wall." Well, the reason why it's a rock wall, not a concrete wall, is they didn't want something permanent. They want to be able to remove the wall if they need to take the ship out. So yeah, the Queen Mary can be removed from that lagoon by just removing one of the walls and towing the ship out. Problem is that currently there is a cruise terminal right behind the ship. So if they wanted to move the Queen Mary out, they would have to demolish the terminal just to pull the Queen Mary out of there. So, interesting. Brian says, "Congrats on your new apartment." Well, it's not happening yet. I don't want to jinx it. Goofy rolls. No, I haven't read any H.P. Lovecraft. Tyler, no, I haven't read any Warm Bodies. Hello, Braden. Brian says, Normandy and Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth are my favorite. Alex and Cecil of Bulgaria says, what do you like about the RMS Olympic? I suppose it's history, you know, how it had all these eventful things happen to it and stuff like that, you know, as well as the fact that it was used in wartime. So that's pretty cool. It had a pretty, you know, a decent amount of time on the water before it was eventually retired. And then as well as the Olympic, it had kind of a simple beauty, a simple charm to it. So, yeah, that's kind of the reasons why I like Olympic. Willem says, I would love a Queen Mary Honor and Glory like Titanic Honor and Glory. The team at Titanic Honor and Glory have expressed that one day they would like to do something like that for the Queen Mary, but that is not even in the works. They would have to finish what they're doing first with Titanic before they ever considered moving on to the Queen Mary. And even then, they're not even sure if they ever will move on to the Queen Mary. So I wouldn't hold your breath on it, but they have expressed in the past that it was an interesting thought that came across. So, Doc says, did you watch The Last of Us? No, I haven't watched it. I really enjoyed it. I never played video games, so I was shocked how good the series was. Yeah, no, I haven't watched The Last of Us. John C. says, have you seen the USS New Jersey's new videos on SS United States? Surprisingly, yes. I don't even like SS United States, but something drew me into wanting to watch those videos, so I did. I watched every one that they've put out. It didn't really tell me anything new that I didn't already know about the ship, so I wouldn't say that it taught me anything, but it was interesting to see those same rooms again from a different angle, different point of view, so, yeah. Daniel says, what if they built a barrier between the submarine and the Queen Mary and just lift it up? That solves only one of two issues. So yes, it would solve the issue of the submarine breaking apart and then the pieces falling underneath the Queen Mary. But there is another issue, which is it's dangerous to lift something out of the water and have it break apart while you're lifting it, because when you think about it, a crane is an interesting piece of physics. So to lift something as heavy as that submarine, which part of it is flooded, so you'll be lifting some of the water with it too, it's really heavy. I think they'll need 2 cranes to lift it, and those cranes will have to be counterweighted. So that way, whatever they're pulling in front of them will be counterweighted on the other side. Now, what happens if all of a sudden it breaks apart and all that weight goes down to 0 because it's fallen apart? What happens is the weight on the other side will cause the cranes to want to go like that and flip over. You could kill people that way. So it's not as simple as that, you know. They still have to consider what dangers could they face trying to lift up something that they're pretty sure will break apart in midair. So that's one of the dangers they had to consider when they were removing the lifeboats from the Queen Mary, because the lifeboats were not very structurally sound. A lot of them, the keels had completely rotted away. Some of them didn't even have keels anymore. Of course, people always say, like, oh, boy, I've been underneath them. They still had keels. No. You saw the fiberglass that was like screwed in over it to make it look like there was still a complete lifeboat under there. But a lot of them had a big hole at the bottom because they had completely rotted out years ago, and other companies put a sheet of fiberglass there just to cover it up. So a lot of those lifeboats did not have any structural stability. They had rotted away so badly. And yet they still weighed something like 15,000 pounds each, maybe a little more, a little less. And they were worried because they had to lift about 15,000 pounds about 20 times as it dangled over the ship. If that 15,000 pounds had suddenly dropped from the air, it would have gone right through the ship. So they were worried, but they took the risk because they said, you know what? If we don't remove these lifeboats, then one of the decks could bend or distort, and that would be its own issue. Or the lifeboats could break apart on the davits and fall on people. So they had to take the risk. It was like either risk a lifeboat breaking apart in midair and falling into the ship, or risk someone getting hurt. So it's all about risks. They had to kind of determine what's the least of the issue. So yeah, it's kind of a complex issue. Brandon says, why didn't you have a stream on Wednesday? Because I don't know if you guys know, but like 2 weeks ago, the Wednesday 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to have some kind of apartment inspection, and I had to cancel that one because I didn't know when they were coming. They said, we're coming this week to inspect your apartment, install a fire extinguisher, check the safety of the apartment, all that kind of thing. And I said, okay, but I didn't want to schedule a tea time if I didn't know when they were coming. Because what if they came in the middle of the tea time and they're like, what's with all this? There's stuff everywhere. They wouldn't even be able to walk into the apartment because all the lights and cameras are set up. So I couldn't do it that time. And then it ended up being that week they just never came. And they said, oh, we're delayed because of the weather and all that stuff. So they said, we'll come back next week. So skip ahead to last Wednesday, and they still hadn't come, and Wednesday was supposed to be the final day. If they were going to come on Wednesday, then it would be Wednesday. It wouldn't be Thursday. So I decided not to do a live stream on Wednesday because I wasn't sure. And so they eventually did come. They inspected. It was on Wednesday. And so, yeah. So now I have a brand new fire extinguisher under my sink, which is good. I don't start fires, but if there ever was a fire, I know I have a fire extinguisher now. So, yeah. So, but yeah, that's why. It was kind of a whole debacle. Oh, thank you so much, Dino. I'm really glad that my videos are able to kind of help. Daniel says, hey Alex, have you heard of Bach Lumber? It's the number one, Bach Lumber #1. It's the oldest Forney operational to what I know. Interesting. No, I haven't heard of it. Doc says, Alex, if you love horror, fellow Anne Rice lover, you'd enjoy The Last of Us. Alright, I'll try. I'm currently watching a show, very slowly I might add, because I hardly have time to watch anything. But I am watching currently something called Lovecraft Country. And so it's kind of like a twist on the stylings of H.P. Lovecraft. But it's based on kind of a whole different storyline. But yeah, it is pretty interesting. I've only seen the first episode, and when I have time, I'll watch the second one. But yeah. Liam Garcia says, if RMS Mauretania was still around today, would that affect the Queen Mary? I don't really see why not. I mean, the QE2 is still around today, and it has no effect whatsoever on what happens to the Queen Mary, so I don't see why if Mauretania was around, if it would have anything to... yeah, I don't think so. It would have to... The Mauretania would probably be somewhere else in another part of the world. There's no way Long Beach would acquire a second ocean line. I know a lot of people ask that. They're like, what if Long Beach had kept the Queen Elizabeth? What if Long Beach had brought another ocean liner? Long Beach would not take on 2 ocean liners. They already have difficulty taking care of 1. So, but yeah. Willem says, were people ever able to tour the submarine? Yes, they were up to 2015. So between 1998 and 2015, the submarine offered tours. But after 2015, it was closed and subsequently abandoned. So, yeah, they used to, though. I've actually been in the submarine once for a tour. I think that was probably around 2010 or something like that. Willem says, have you ever read Diana? It's about Princess Diana. Not really. I'm not in... I know a lot of people are really interested in her life and what happened to her and all that. I'm really not. I'm not. I was watching... I was a big fan of the show The Crown. And when I got to season 5, it was like all about Diana. And I'm like, that's great. But I kind of am more curious about Queen Elizabeth's life than Diana. So I'm kind of like... I didn't want to watch the rest of season 5. So I didn't. I stopped watching after like the 3rd episode. But yeah, I'm not that interested in Princess Diana. Dino says, I toured the submarine many years ago. There was a raccoon on it that hissed at us. Yeah, that makes sense. The thing is like overrun with raccoons right now. Doc says, Heart Lovecraft Country. Yeah, it's pretty good. I liked the first episode. I'm excited to see the next one. So, but I saw the first episode like a week ago. I haven't had time since to watch the second one because every time I make time at the end of the day, that's like there's so many things I want to do. I want to write more of my book. I want to like watch or catch up on YouTube videos that I haven't watched, or I want to like watch another movie that I haven't seen. And it's like sometimes I have to push the things I want to do weeks ahead, because I spend most of my time just either with family or making videos, so I don't really have time to do much. So yeah. Yeah. I think that's why I'm so selective. When people say, oh, I recommend this for you, I recommend that for you, I'm very selective because I don't even have time to see the things I've planned to see already, so... Jesse says, Alex, love your videos. Keep them coming. Oh, thank you so much. I'm always really glad that people like my videos, you know. I'm my own worst critic, honestly. I really am, because when I make stuff, I'm always like, did I do that right? Does that make sense? Does that seem right? Will people like this and stuff? So I get kind of worried when people start watching my videos. I'm like, okay, I hope they really liked it. I hope I didn't make any mistakes, that kind of thing. So it's always nice when people like the content I make. Time is it? 5:13, so 15 more minutes and we'll be at the 2-hour mark. How is the barely warm. Been talking so much I haven't even had my second cup of tea. It's not exactly warm anymore, but let's see if I can heat up that water a little bit. Kind of rinse this out with some hot water. Willem says, why don't they just demolish the submarine and send divers to go pick up the parts? Because it's not that simple. It could be very dangerous for the divers. What if the parts are, hundreds or thousands of pounds? What if the parts collapse on the divers? That's really dangerous. But the other thing, too, is that the submarine is not clean. It's not like a teacup that has just broken apart and fallen in the water. It's not clean. It's full of, residues of oils and toxic stuff, grease and things like that. There's all kinds of materials inside the submarine, and so it would have to be properly cleaned, properly. But but the submarine may not survive that kind of process anyway. It would be dangerous even to go inside the submarine because, you know, it could flood randomly. So it is kind of a whole issue that they're trying to figure out. So yeah, but when it comes to those materials, like the oils, the greases, that kind of stuff, that could get into the environment. And then the EPA would be on Long Beach's back saying, what are you doing polluting our environment? You know, you'd have people all over the world going, what are you doing? You're letting, you know, fuels and greases go into the ocean, you know, so you'd have to clean up the water that's, you know, in that area. And even then, that water can go in and out. So it's a whole big deal, you know. Okay. So I'm going to rinse this out. A little bit more. I'm just trying to heat up the teacup. Because if I can keep the teacup pretty warm, then the tea itself will stay warmer longer. Okay. Out that goes. In goes the tea. Then sugar. Little gamer, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I feel like what I did was a documentary. I'm very happy with what I created. I don't think I created any clickbait. All it says in the title is Sleeping Beauty Castle documentary. It's a documentation of the history of Sleeping Beauty Castle. That's what you get when you watch the thing. I don't think that's clickbait. I think that is 100% what you get. So, yeah, I don't think so. It's one of those things. It's like everybody has their own definition of something. It's like, well, I think your video is really more like this. And it's like, well, that's great, but I think it's more like that, you know? I can't make everybody happy, so I just try to do what I can to make the majority happy. There we go. Willem says, why don't they go demolish the raccoon nest and scrap it slowly? Same issue. How? How do you do it so it's safe for the environment, it's cheap enough that it won't cost a fortune, and lastly, that it'll be safe enough to do? It's just, it takes a lot of planning. It's not as simple as just going in there with a bunch of hammers and cutting torches. It takes a while. It takes a while. Chilling the Frozen North says, hi Alex, hope you're well. I have a hunch the diesel fuel is probably the least dangerous pollutant on that submarine. 100%. Totally. It's probably the least of their worries is the diesel fuel. There's probably other stuff on that submarine. John says, why haven't they coincident on-site demolition of the sub? I'm not sure what you're asking. If you could reword that, I'll try to answer it. Willem says, when you go to France, will you visit Disneyland Paris? Absolutely. My friend wants to go there to film stuff for his channel, so, and I'll be traveling with my friend, so yeah, we will both be going to Disneyland Paris. All right. Dip this in a little bit of tea. Oh, what's today? Sunday? So, Friday should be my... Oh, jeez. I say this at the risk of jinxing it again, but Friday should be my video about RMS Queen Elizabeth. God willing. So, we'll see. Brian, no, you didn't say anything wrong. I just don't have anything to add to that. Top Impressive Line says, Alex, do you think that if the Queen Mary 2 were to be hit by a rogue wave, she would survive? Because some ocean liners have encountered rogue waves and survived. A cruise ship probably wouldn't have. Well, being that Queen Mary 2 has certain design elements that make her an ocean liner, as opposed to a cruise ship, she is designed to be hit by rogue waves. Most certainly. There's a reason why Queen Mary 2's superstructure is so narrow into the center of the ship. Is to give the ship a better center of gravity, you know, better metacentric height, all that kind of stuff. All that physics stuff I don't understand. As well as the fact that there's a reason why the ship has a very raked profile towards the stern. It's very sloped as opposed to just being a flat stern like a lot of cruise ships have. You know, so there are design elements built into the physical form of the Queen Mary 2 that make it so she can handle all the same excuse me, random sneeze. Yeah, there are physical features that allow her to survive the same horrific storms that her predecessors have undergone. So yes, I do think if she was hit by a rogue wave, even if it was a 92-foot rogue wave like the Queen Mary got hit with in World War II, yes, the Queen Mary 2 would survive it, most definitely, because the ship was designed to, so yeah. Wouldn't come out scot-free, though. There would be a lot of damage. Most certainly, there would probably be a lot of windows and sliding doors that are broken. But the ship should stay upright. Chilling in the Frozen North says, is the microphone on the table the one you bought a while back? I can't recall the model number. Electro Voice RE2. No. No. So I can't use I call it the fancy microphone. It's the Electro Voice RE320. That's what I call the fancy microphone. I can't use that for tea time. One, because I'm not going to put it anywhere near food. But two, it's permanently attached to my desk where I do all my voice recording and stuff like that. So this one is just a cheap microphone, literally cheap. I think this one cost me maybe $30 when I bought it back in 2018, I think. This was the microphone I used when I pretty much was still new to YouTube. And this microphone doesn't work very well for recording YouTube videos. And the reason why is because you hear all the noises behind me. You can hear what's happening outside. You can hear the train clicking and clacking down the rails, all that stuff. So this picks up way too much noise around me, which is why it's actually perfect for live streams because one, I can be 10 feet away from it and it'll still hear me just fine. But the other reason too is because I have like copyrighted music playing right now, and if the music was completely isolated and it was loud enough, I would get copyright claims or strikes on the music. And so this microphone is actually perfect for picking up other sounds, which allows me to play copyrighted music without getting a claim. Because it's just, in that case, it's considered like background music as opposed to a featured song. So yeah, things like that. But this is the cheap one. This is like $30. I've had it since like 2018, I think, maybe 2017. Yeah, it still works great for live streams. But yeah, the fancy microphone, the RE320, I keep that at my desk. It's attached to like a special rig, so that way I can adjust it. So yeah. Willem says, will Queen Mary ever be scrapped? Eventually, yes, one day. I mean, unless something else happens, like we go through the apocalypse and then the ship just ends up being abandoned there because everyone's dead. I don't know. But generally, yes. Almost every ship that exists either gets scrapped, gets scuttled, or there's an accident and it sinks. One of those three things will eventually happen to the Queen Mary. Now, I doubt it will sink where it is, but maybe if one day it's being transported somewhere, for any reason whatsoever, it could sink that way. But other than that, one of those three things will happen to the ship eventually. I'm not going to lie to people. You know, that every ship ends in one of those three fashions. So, but the thing is that the Queen Mary, that will not happen to the ship anytime soon. Not in, at least, at the very, very, very least, not in the next 25 years. But I could see it happening, 50, 75, 100 years from now. Yes, I can see it happening then. But not in the next 25 years. So enjoy the ship while you can. I mean, that's actually just good, good advice for life. Enjoy life while you can. I've grown up seeing so many people I know who've prioritized just trying to reach their career goals, and that's great. By all means, if your career means that much to you, do that. But I know people who now they're like, you know what, my career is awesome, but I kind of, looking back on it, wish I had just traveled more, or just understood more things, or practiced more of my favorite hobbies and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, when it comes to life, I've learned from those people that for me, my career wasn't the number one thing on my priority. I mean, yes, having enough money to live was, but outside of that, I just want to live more of life. And so that's what's important to me, because I have no idea when my time is up, So, and that's not just a young guy saying that. I've been told by many people, some of them 70 years and older, who've said, just enjoy life. Don't worry about, your career as much. And I've liked their advice. So, but yeah, kind of deep for the question you asked, actually. But yes, eventually something will happen to the Queen Mary. So just enjoy the ship while you can. So, J-Rod says, Alex, when you take the Queen Mary 2, what would you have on the menu for meals? Well, the menu changes with every voyage. So I actually don't know what they're going to be serving, a year from now or something like that when I'm on the ship. But it really just all depends. Because I've looked at plenty of videos and the menus can vary wildly. But I mean, I can tell you for certain one of the things I'm looking forward to is every day having afternoon tea on the ship. That's one thing I'm looking forward to, but I don't know what they're going to serve, so, yeah. Jeremy says, loving the content, Alex. Every Disney model railroads and ships. I'm all in. Cheers and keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Chilling in the Frozen North says, thanks for clarifying. I was wondering why your voice sounds different on the live stream versus documentary. Yeah, there's that too. So this microphone isn't very good at picking up the wide range of audio. Because as you know, like, humans can generally hear everything from 20 hertz to 20 megahertz? Kilohertz? Jeez, I don't even remember anymore. 20 to 20, it's on that scale. And this microphone can't pick that up, not nearly. So, my voice is a little bit deeper than what can probably be heard on this microphone. But the other thing, too, is that you also have to remember when I'm doing voiceover, I'm also voice acting. So, the RMS Queen Mary, Queen of the Queens by William J. Duncan. So it's voice acting, so for sure. Kilohertz, that's right. Thanks. Let's see. Jelly in the Frozen North says, corporate America hates advice. They really do. I'm a capitalist by heart, for sure, but at the same time, I also recognize that, I'm not too keen on the whole corporate thing. I think, Julia Child said it best. Everything in moderation, including moderation. So she said it best, so I kind of like that. Yes, Chris, I have seen Life After People. It's pretty interesting. Willem says, is there a chance this will ever happen to Queen Mary? If you're still asking about, how if the same question you asked a few minutes ago, yes. I mean, like I said, there is usually always 3 endings for a ship. It either sinks, gets scuttled, or gets scrapped. So it's the 3 S's: sink, scuttle, scrap. So that is the most likely thing that will happen to the Queen Mary. So when you ask, is there a chance this will ever happen? Of course, there is a 99% chance that's how it will end for Queen Mary. The 1% chance is that she gets abandoned because the world ends. That's the 1%. So, but yes, there is a 99% chance that is how the Queen Mary will end. So, yeah. Look at the link you sent. Yeah, sorry, Jeremy. When you put links in the chat, links don't work in the chat. They don't work. YouTube does not like links in the live chat, so there's no link. You're welcome, Tyler. I hope you do end up feeling better. Well, folks, 534 every single time. Oh my gosh. For those that don't know, 534 is the number, the hull number that Queen Mary was. She was job number 534, hull number 534. And every single time I end up looking at the clock because I need to find out what time it is. It's 534. Anyway, it is time to end the live stream. Weird. But anyway, I do have to get going. I have to make some dinner. I want to see if I can get a head start on that Queen Elizabeth video so it doesn't take me all week. But yeah, stay tuned for more videos this week. There should be another Tea Time live stream on Wednesday, unless there's something else that happens. And then maybe we'll do another Titanic Honor and Glory live stream sometime this week or something so you guys can see the ship. And otherwise, yeah, look for the Queen Elizabeth video on Friday or Saturday, depending on how much time it takes me. But yeah, I wanted to say thank you all for joining me, and yeah, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Dino, for the donation.